Once again, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zak, the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News. I hope everyone's having a lovely evening. We've got a lot of news to go through today, so let's get right into it. First of all, we had an incident, a live shooter incident yesterday at the White House. President Trump was removed while live on television at a press conference by the Secret Service. We're going to go through that and the statement from the Secret Service. We've also got a couple of tweets from President Trump talking about John Bolton and his mistrust of the intelligence agencies, and rightfully so, as we also have 168 new pages of documents that were released by Judicial Watch proving that the intelligence agencies and the government itself, the DOJ and more, were actively spying on President Trump. We also have some video of Nancy Pelosi. She has admitted that Joe Biden is the chosen candidate of the Chinese Communist Party, and we have an update from the General Flynn hearing from earlier today. It appears that Attorney General Bill Barr may have had secret reasons for dropping the Flynn case, and I'm predicting that that is going to be some classified information that will come out in Durham's report. We also have some interesting news that Joe Biden may be on the verge of choosing his VP candidate, and it looks like we may have some really good news for science and logic as a Stanford doctor, Scott Atlas, has been added to the CV-19 task force. He is firmly a believer in science and not fear tactics. And we have a report coming from a Democrat-supported Marxist group which plans to lay siege to the White House for 50 days leading up to the election. And finally, Kanye West has filed papers claiming that the Democrats spied on his campaign in Wisconsin. Please, everyone, do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we're going to be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Gold just made history again. It hit a record high of $19.33 and 30 cents, and it's showing no signs of stopping. Bloomberg predicts it's going to zoom past $2,000 a lot sooner than expected. Bank of America is saying it's going to be at $3,000 within 18 months, and billionaire Thomas Kaplan predicted a new decade-long bull market will push it past $5,000 an ounce. And silver's joining in the rally too. It jumped 4.5% to its highest since 2013 at $23.86 per ounce. But if it's a surprise to you and you're sick of low returns, hassle, and the volatility of stocks, it's time you look at gold and silver. The team at Noble Gold will help you find a plan that's perfect for you. You can choose a precious metals IRA or 401k this month, and if you do, you might even get a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coin. This offer is for qualified IRAs and 401ks, so please call 877-646-5347 to see if you qualify for this amazing offer. And don't forget to tell them Red Pill 78 sent you. Stop wasting time, stop losing opportunities for gains, and protect your future. Go to the link in the pinned comment or description below to visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Once again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com. You can get there from the link or the pinned comment. Tell them Red Pill 78 sent you. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today we have news on the live shooting that took place yesterday at the White House. While President Trump was live giving a press conference, Secret Service agents came in and snagged him off the podium and took him out. And apparently the journalists in the room were put on lockdown. The entire White House was on lockdown. Now, President Trump came back before too long, and he was basically cavalier about it. He said he wasn't worried, that everything was fine. I trust the men and women of the Secret Service, and I know that POTUS does too. But we have an update here discussing what actually took place. There was a lot of confusion in the wake of President Trump being removed. Now, there was a Secret Service agent and the shooter himself who was transported to the hospital after the shooting. Now, the shooting itself took place at 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, just outside of the White House. Now, we actually have footage showing the incident. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Now, the information about the Secret Service officer was revealed by the Secret Service themselves. Let's take a look at their statement, which goes into the incident in detail. Here is a view from one of the bystanders across the street. On the ground there, I'm not sure if that's the assailant or if that's the Secret Service agent that was involved in the incident. But as we'll learn in a moment, there were injuries on both sides. I do say it's pretty interesting it took place on 17th Street. No coincidences there.
Someone reported he shot.
The Secret Service revealed that at approximately 5:53 p.m. yesterday, a 51-year-old male approached a U.S. Secret Service uniformed officer who was standing at his post on the corner of 17th and Pennsylvania Northwest near the White House complex. The suspect approached the officer and told the officer he had a weapon. The suspect then turned around, ran aggressively towards the officer, and in a drawing motion, withdrew an object from his clothing. He then crouched into a shooter's stance as if about to fire a weapon, and the Secret Service officer discharged his weapon, striking the individual in the torso. Now, officers immediately rendered first aid to the suspect, and DC Fire and EMS were called into the scene. Both the suspect and the officer were transported to local hospitals, and the White House complex was not breached during the incident, and no Secret Service protectees were ever in danger. Now, they said this investigation was, of course, ongoing and that the Metropolitan Police Department was involved, and it strangely happened at the same moment that President Trump was live in the press briefing room. And once he returned, here was his quote. One of the reporters asked, "Are you rattled by this at all, Mr. President?" And President Trump said, "Do I seem rattled? It's unfortunate that this is a world, but the world's always been a dangerous place. It's not something that's unique. The world has been, you look back over the centuries, the world has been a dangerous place, very dangerous place, and it will continue, I guess, for a period of time." He also said, "I feel very safe with Secret Service. They're fantastic people. They're the best of the best, and they're highly trained. I don't know if anybody got to walk outside, but there were a lot of terrific-looking people ready to go if something was necessary, people at the highest level of law enforcement. There's nobody like these people, so they just wanted me to step aside for a little while just to make sure that everything was cleared outside because it was right in this area." Then he was asked, why did he come back? What made you decide to come back and continue the briefing? He said, "Well, I didn't even think about not coming back. I said, am I able to go back? And they said, you'd have to wait a little while. I waited a little while, and as you know, in the Oval Office area, I said, can I go back now? And they said, yes. And they have a lot of fortification outside just in place, but it was one person, okay? So obviously, the press wants to make more of this than it actually is. President Trump is cool as a cucumber. He knows he's got the best men and women, the top tier of our law enforcement agencies protecting him. Not to worry, President Trump is safe. Castle lock, you could say. So early this morning, President Trump put this tweet out making a statement on John Bolton, one of the famous war hawk neocons that was previously part of the administration. He said, "John Bolton, one of the dumbest people I've met in government, and sadly, I've met plenty, states often that I respected and even trusted Vladimir Putin of Russia more than those in our intelligence agencies. While of course that is not true, if the first people you met from the so-called American intelligence were dirty cops who have now proven to be sleazebags at the highest level like James Comey, proven liar James Clapper, and perhaps the lowest of them all, wacko John Brennan, who headed the clowns in America, you could perhaps understand my reluctance to embrace." And that is a pretty powerful statement. President Trump pulling no punches there, obviously. Why would he want to trust those intelligence agencies who were actively engaged in an operation to try to remove him from office? I don't blame him one bit. I don't think anybody here blames him one bit. But we all know that there are good men and women in various agencies who joined federal service so that they could serve their country, make an oath to the Constitution, and protect and support the mission of the president. As far as I'm concerned, for the people of America, for the people of the federal government, it doesn't matter who your president is. You take an oath to that Constitution to uphold it, and part of upholding that oath is supporting the President of the United States. If you don't like the President of the United States, then you take action by voting in election years. You do not engage in a coup. Now, let's take a look at some new documents that have been revealed by Judicial Watch, and it points to early 2015, showing that the operation to try to remove President Trump was underway well before he even was in office. Well, for anybody who's paying attention, it should be no surprise at all that Obamagate was well underway in 2015, before President Trump even took office. It started under Obama, and they were hoping to end it under Obama as well, except President Trump turned out to be such a good president, and he had the right people behind him, they were unable to complete their mission, which was to remove him from office. Let's take a look at these new documents. So today, Judicial Watch has released more text that they received from a FOIA request that provides more support for the idea that Obamagate was started back in 2015. So they released 168 pages of records from the DOJ, which include a handwritten timeline of meetings going back to 2015 connected to Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Christopher Steele and Fusion GPS, as well as a list of records that the DOJ sent to Congress related to their investigation into the FISA warrants, including the Clinton-funded dossier. So we now know that Joseph Mifsud, the same individual that spied on George Papadopoulos in 2016, was also involved in setting up General Flynn with Russians in late 2015, and we know that the deep state lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were connected to Fusion GPS back in 2015 as well. Very, very good stuff. Let's see the docs. So this is coming from Judicial Watch's lawsuit against the DOJ, Nellie Orr, Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, and more, it looks like. Let's go ahead and take a look. So this is from the DOJ to William Marshall at Judicial Watch, saying it's a 14th interim response to your FOIA request dated and received in this office back in May. Wow. So it is taking quite a long time to get them the information that they need. Now, this goes through all of the various times that they've gotten information from them, the information pertaining to the FOIA request. And with it being 168 pages, obviously, we're not going to go through the whole thing today. And as the days wear on, we are going to get more direct information from this particular document request, and you can bet that I'm going to be poring over it. I'm also going to be including a link in the pinned comment below, so if you guys want to go through this and find any bombshells, by all means, please do, and if you want to send them to me, I'll be happy to feature them here on the show. So, happy digging! And in a move that surprises no one except maybe for her unusual level of honesty, Nancy Pelosi has admitted that China wants Joe Biden to be elected president of the United States. Now, this was during a recent video appearance on CNN, and she admitted that China would rather have Biden president come November. Obviously, that is not a good thing for the people of America, but considering Nancy's daily intake of alcoholic beverages, I don't know if she realizes just how horrible of a statement that was. Why would we want to put somebody in power that's going to be favorable to China in the way that Joe Biden would be? Clearly, Joe Biden is bought and paid for. And if he gets into the office of the president, America is going to be sold out. Everything that we've gained since President Trump came into office, all of the manufacturing, all of the pharmaceuticals, absolutely every bit of it is going to go right back over to the Chinese mainland. And to be quite honest with you, this is the point that President Trump has been trying to make even before he got into office. He said that we needed to bring all that business back from China, and he did, and America is prospering. We are thriving despite this ridiculous lockdown that we find ourselves in the middle of. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the clip where she admits that China wants Joe Biden in office. All right, this is a clip from Francis Brennan on Twitter. Let's take a listen.
And you say what they said is China would prefer Joe Biden. Whether they do, that's their conclusion, that they would prefer Joe Biden. But the Chinese, what they said is China would prefer Joe Biden. Whether they do, that's their conclusion, that they would.
Okay, did you guys see Andrea Mitchell's eyes pop open when she said that? Let me go ahead and rewind it back for you. Okay, take a look.
China would prefer Joe Biden. Whether they do, that's their conclusion, that they would prefer Joe Biden.
Andrea knows if China prefers Joe Biden, that means it's probably not good for the people of America. And that was not the right thing to admit on national television. Now, are the people that watch CNN going to catch this and realize that? I don't really know. Probably not. But people like us, we hear this and we know that it is bad, bad news for America if Joe Biden gets into office. Now, let's take a look at who Joe Biden has chosen as his running mate. So initially, I had this story all queued up showing that signs point to the fact that Biden is about to make a VP announcement, but he's held off choosing the vice president until just days before the delayed start of the Democrat convention in Milwaukee. It's now set for this upcoming Monday. It was pushed back a month due to the pandemic we find ourselves in the midst of. Now, it looks like while I was recording these segments, Joe Biden did the thing. He actually chose a running mate, and I don't think you're going to be too surprised. And here we have it. It looks like Joe Biden has chosen Senator Kamala Harris to be his vice presidential running mate. This is being reported by Yahoo News. It looks like news outlets are starting to report about this live. We've got many smiling faces on all of the liberal media news outlets. We've got several Asian outlets reporting as well. I know that at least one of these, Nikkei, that is Japanese. I don't know what these other ones are, but if they're Chinese, that would be pretty funny considering the fact that he is the preferred candidate of the Chinese Communist Party. I'm sure that we are probably going to have tons of hilarious sound bites coming in the days ahead. I also think it's kind of funny that Kamala Harris got a bunch of plastic surgery right before she's going to have to get back out there on the campaign trail. Hopefully, it's not going to cause any difficulties for her nips and tucks that she's recently received. Probably lots of fillers, too, let's be honest. All right, guys, moving on. All right, next, an update on the Flynn hearing. Methods and I talked about this in detail earlier today on Occam's Razor. One of the interesting things that came out from the hearing was the fact that Attorney General Barr may have had secret reasons for dropping the case against General Flynn. And of course, that is the case against former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, a three-star general, a man who served his country for over 3 decades and has literally been put through the ringer in our corrupt judicial system here in the United States. Now, there was the hearing that was taking place earlier today. Oral arguments were being delivered before the D.C. Court of Appeals on the order of the court's mandamus, which is directing Judge Emmett Sullivan to dismiss the DOJ criminal case against General Flynn for perjury, despite the fact that Flynn pleaded guilty to the case initially. Now, we know that General Flynn pled guilty because Mueller said that he was going to go after Michael Flynn Jr., who wouldn't sacrifice themselves so that their child could have a happy life. Now, in response to a question by Judge Merrick Garland, acting U.S. Solicitor General Jeffrey Wall told the court earlier today that Attorney General Barr may have had secret information that contributed to the reasoning for the DOJ to dismiss the case. Now, Flynn's attorney Sidney Powell filed for the writ of mandamus when Sullivan embarked on an investigation into the DOJ request for dismissal, appointing an outside counsel and indicating he would seek additional charges against Flynn for changing his plea. Now, here's an excerpt from a CNBC report. The DOJ had provided multiple reasons for the U.S. District Court Judge Emmett Sullivan to throw out its own case against General Flynn, who had previously pled guilty of lying to the FBI about his contacts with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. in the weeks before President Trump's inauguration. Now, there was nothing illegal in those conversations. There was nothing improper. It was a completely acceptable thing for an incoming national security advisor to do. Make contact with representatives of other countries, representatives that he would most likely need to start interacting with as soon as Inauguration Day hit. Now, Wall, who was representing the DOJ, told this full panel of judges on the appeals court that Barr's judgment on Flynn's case came in the context of non-public information from other investigations. What other investigations are going on right now that might shed some light on this? Well, certainly U.S. Attorney John Durham's investigation. Also, we've got U.S. Attorney Bash's investigation, and there are multiple other investigations leading down a variety of roads that will more than likely reveal a multitude of crimes committed by the last administration and then holdovers from those administrations in President Trump's administration. He said, "I just wanted to make clear that it may be possible that the Attorney General had before him information that he was not able to share with the court. And so what we put in front of the court were the reasons that we could, but it may not be the whole picture available to the executive branch." Now, there is no reason to say that there may be this information, unless, of course, there is this information. If all the information had been presented, that would have been obvious, and he would have stated as such. Now, Wall said, "We gave 3 reasons. One of them was that the interests of justice were no longer served in the Attorney General's judgment by the prosecution. The Attorney General made that decision or that judgment on the basis of lots of information. Some of it is public and fleshed out in the motion, and some is not. Why? Because it's probably being used in ongoing cases litigating criminal acts acts by the former administration. Now, Barr has appointed several U.S. attorneys. Of course, I already said Durham. We've got him investigating the conduct of the FBI and the DOJ into those investigations of President Trump, his campaign, and the administration into the Trump-Russia collusion hoax perpetrated by none other than Hillary Clinton, her campaign, and the Obama administration. There is hours of audio that you can listen to yourself. The link to this article will be in the pinned comment below, so if you guys want to listen to it, you can. It's a fairly illuminating display. Clearly, there were several judges on that panel who were biased against General Flynn and who thought that Attorney General Bill Barr must have been bought off or been bribed in some fashion, or that for some reason General Flynn was receiving some type of privileged treatment due to his former position in the administration. I think that none of that is true. I think that the truth of the matter is General Flynn committed no crimes. He pled guilty to save his child, and then once it was revealed publicly that there were no crimes and that he had also received ineffective counsel and that he also had not received all of the exculpatory information proving his innocence, it became necessary to withdraw his plea. General Flynn needs to have this case dismissed so that he can be exonerated. It will not be sufficient to have him pardoned after being convicted by Judge Sullivan and sentenced, because he did nothing wrong. He does not need that stain on his record, and we need him back in the administration. All right, finally, some good news in relation to the CV-19 task force led by Dr. Anthony Fauci. A Stanford doctor named Scott Atlas has been added to the list of physicians who are helping out on the CV-19 task force. Now, he was a believer in science. He does not believe in fear tactics, and it's hoped that he will be able to balance things out and kind of temper the imagination of Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now, Rush Limbaugh was reporting on this earlier, and he said Scott Atlas is a brilliant guy, and he thinks by early October we could well be burned out of CV-19. In his opinion, we could see it turn inert, and his reason for this, some underappreciated T-cell along with prior immunities. Now, Rush admitted he was not well versed enough to understand it, but he just said he's repeating what Dr. Scott Atlas was saying. So, Dr. Scott Atlas thinking that this could all be done, maybe we have reached herd immunity by October. I think that's probably the best thing we can hope for. Dr. Atlas stated a long time ago what we all knew then and we know now, that young people are at an extremely low risk of contracting the virus and dying from it as well. Dr. Atlas was on Fox News and he was talking about the task force and them saying that we should shut down schools and stating that the U.S. is the only major country shutting down schools. He said science doesn't support the idea of shutting down schools because children are at very low risk of getting this disease and they are not spreaders. Now, this is wonderful news for America, and I really hope that Dr. Atlas can have a meaningful impact on the decisions this task force makes, and I hope that he can stand up to Dr. Anthony Fauci. Maybe he'll even get to take over. All right, next, something to keep an eye on as we're heading into the election. There is a Democrat-supported Marxist group that has planned a siege on the White House. It's going to be starting on September 17th, and it's going to run for 50 days up until the 2020 election. Now, they put the information out just this past week, and they said they plan on starting the siege on September 17th and to continue it all the way until November 3rd. They hope that this is going to get out more votes for Joe Biden. As part of the language, they said it's time again for dramatic, decisive action, which is why on September 17th, in the original and enduring spirit of Occupy, we and tens of thousands of our fellow citizens will stream into Lafayette Square in Washington, D.C. They say specifically, we will lay siege to the White House, and we will sustain it for exactly 50 days. This is the White House siege. Now, 50 days is a long time. And if you'll remember back to what happened in Occupy Wall Street, that was basically exactly what they did there. Although considering the climate of the country right now, I do think that it's worth warning people about the fact that this could turn into something else. I can only imagine the type of people that are going to show up for this, and I really do believe that it's going to cause a lot of stories between now and November 3rd. So keep your eyes open. All right, finally, and a story which may have been strange at one time in the past, but considering what we've learned about tactics that the Democrats are willing to get up to, Kanye West has accused Democrats of spying on his campaign in Washington. Now, he's firing back at the Wisconsin Democratic Party and now is officially beefing with it, accusing the Dems of spying on his campaign. He's actually responding to a complaint in the Badger State, asking officials to block him from the ballot due to allegedly submitting fake signatures and failing to get his signatures in on time. And make no mistake, he believes the Wisconsin Democratic Party is the ones who are doing it. In the documents obtained by TMZ, Kanye claims the Dems hired a private investigator to track his signature-gathering street team as part of a, quote, organized effort of harassment and intimidation against his candidacy. Also, he says the Democratic spies merely wasted their time because they turned up nothing nefarious. Now, Kanye had filed his signatures and paperwork last week to get his name on the ballot for president in Wisconsin, and he needed 2,000 signatures from registered voters in the state to get on the ballot, and his third-party petitioning group, Let the Voters Decide, are the ones who helped him obtain those signatures. Now, Ye claims the complaint filed on Friday seeking to prevent him from getting on the ballot was submitted by a man who's widely reported to be a front for the Democrat Party. The complaint suggests Kanye's campaign submitted bogus signatures and includes affidavits from people who claim they were tricked into signing their names on Yeezy's paperwork. So what's next? Well, we're told the state's elections commission will review the legal papers and make a recommendation about Kanye's slot on the ballot to a bipartisan panel of 3 Dems and 3 Republicans. Now, Kanye has already been booted off the ballot in his home state of Illinois, where election officials say more than half of his signatures submitted were invalid. And now he's trying to prevent that from happening in the far more politically important swing state of Wisconsin. If I had to guess, I would say the Democrats are definitely behind this because, of course, they do not want Kanye West on the ballot. He's going to siphon quite a few votes away from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And, of course, that's going to be a great thing for Republicans. Now, I don't believe that President Trump has anything to worry about when it comes to his race against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but I think that any help we can get is totally warranted. Now, if Kanye wants to run for president, that's his business, and it's his right as a citizen of this country. But the Dems are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that they squeeze every last vote out of every single voter. It doesn't matter if they're dead or alive. All right, guys, that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am Zak the Corruption Detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. I just want to thank everyone for watching today. If you have not subscribed yet, I urge you to please consider subscribing. There will be a couple of videos that pop up if you want to continue to watch. There's also some ways in the description of this video that you can follow me on other platforms. Please consider doing that as well. And if you want to support the program directly, there are means to do that below as well. Thank you all for your support over the last couple of years. Consider liking and sharing this video and help me get the real news to people who don't yet know they've been lied to.